Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. This is the review where I review all the great shows that are out. If you have any recommendations, please list them below in the comments and subscribe to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about Love is Blind parts 2 and 3, and I'm going to start off with Zanub and Cole. And as y'all saw at the end, they got into it and it was a mess. But we're going to go to part 2, and the whole thing with Colleen and Cole came up again. Zanub, I believe, asked Matt like what she got, what story she got, or what story he got. That was a whole conversation. And so then Zanub went back to Cole and was like, hey, I found out more information, blah, blah, blah. And then they got into it, and it was like this whole tiff about like, well, you can just go do this. You can just go talk to somebody else. It was very interesting, to say the least. And I guess they worked through it. And then he met her stepmom, and that was interesting. Because I think you found out more about why Zanub shows up the way she does. It sounds like she's a person, well, not sounds like she's a person of color. She's a person of color, clearly. And she's had to navigate through a lot of white spaces. You add in the fact that both of her parents are deceased, and then his parents don't want to meet her. All of those things combined. Then you add the Colleen thing, and Colleen is white. And he's like, oh, she's like a 10 out of 10. You're just a 9. Like, it just adds to her insecurity. And again, we all have them. So it's not a matter of like not having insecurities. It's just how do you work through those things. And all of it, I think, is a lot for Zanub to work through and navigate and understand for herself. And sometimes things don't show up until you're in relationship with people. So you don't know that they're there until you're like talking to people and like, oh, this is a serious relationship. Like, how am I going to do this? Like, and so all of it is just like coming together and making sense, at least in my brain, why she shows up the way she does. Doesn't make it right, no, but also I get it. So I think she has probably some inner things to work through. Because that's a lot to hold when you talk about two of your parents being deceased and then getting married, and then the other person's family is like, I don't want to meet you. And then later on we find out that like, furthermore, they're like, oh, we'll follow her on Instagram, but won't meet her. And also, like, when they were talking The Bachelorette, where it was like Raven, Alexa, all the girls. But Raven and Alexa were like, that don't sound right. And they both was like, and I was like, I was here for it because it's true. It was true. I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound right. Because they were like, she doesn't seem like the girl you would go for or you would be with. What does that mean? Because you don't know her. So, and I'm about to call a spade a spade. I think it's because of her race. That's just me. And they have very Christian values. And like, if they are super like, it's giving me Trump supporter. It's giving that. And they live in Texas. They live in Dallas. So I wouldn't be surprised. If I'm being honest. And so with that being said, it does not add to her feeling more secure in a relationship with Cole. It makes it worse. So I think that overall, like, their relationship is just, I would not want her to say yes. And I also would not want him to say yes, because at the end, when the whole thing went down, like, Zanub came in, Cole's making dinner. Apparently she asked for this, or he said he was going to do this. And Cole, like, is in the kitchen, just like, he's doing his thing. And then she comes in like a wrecking ball, like, oh, you need to do this. No, you need to do that. Why are you doing this? Why is that in there? Da-da-da-da. Blah, blah, blah. Like, I was like, whoo, time out. Like, it was a lot for me to take in. And I think Cole did do a good job of calling out what he felt. He felt inferior because if I don't do it your way, it's the wrong way. If I don't do it the way you feel like I should do it, then it's not right. And so for him, he's like, okay, like he's trying to do it. And like, I feel like there's no right or wrong way to do things if you do it. That's on you to do. It's not for someone to come in and tell you how to do it. I've been there. And it's not a fun feeling for someone to come in and be like, well, you're doing it wrong, but I'm just not doing it the way you would do it. And that's not a bad thing. It's just different. And so she just has like very stringent, like, this is how you do it. And she just came and took over instead of letting him just do it himself. And I don't know if that's like, I have some ideas around why that is happening. And then he was like wanting to play Nerf with her, and she's like, no, you're doing like, and he like couldn't like be playful. He can't be his playful self with her. And it literally just turned into like a argument that probably didn't need to be, because like then he called her bipolar, and she's like, what the fuck? Like, and she was like, deuces. And I think he was wrong in calling her bipolar, because that's a diagnosis that like people use that word freely, and it's not okay to use freely to describe someone's actions. Like maybe just stating like, you're treating me like this and you're treating me like that. Like, I don't understand. I feel confused. Maybe that's a better way to like describe it, as opposed to just being like, you're bipolar. Are you bipolar? Like, no. So she leaves, he goes to get her, he comes back, and all in all, like, they talk through it, but I'm gonna say that they should both say no. I don't think Cole can hold space for her, and I don't think she can hold space for him. I think they have an emotional connection, but like the way they show up for each other is just not good. It's not on par. So, but do I think somebody is going to say yes? I actually don't know. I don't know. If my guess, I'm going to guess and say Cole's going to say no and Zay's going to say yes. That's my guess. Okay, now we're going to go to... we're going to go to Alexa and Brennan. I feel like they're pretty unproblematic, but maybe that's a problem. And you can tell she comes from money. You can tell she comes from like being really taken care of. And she has a very luxurious lifestyle. You can tell by the way her parents' house is. I was like, shit. And like her family and her friends, like even her friends are very much like, they live a lifestyle. Listen, that is not Brennan. And I don't know if he doesn't feel like they click because of that, but like, I think she's accepting of who he is and vice versa. But I don't know if I think he's scared. Like, she wants a prenup. I'm not mad at it. Protect her money. Because it sounds like she makes a lot of money. And she lives a certain lifestyle for a reason. And I don't know if it's going to be beneficial for him to have to like be all that she wants him to be and taken care of, and like I don't know if that's gonna work. And it did sound like he's like, I'm nervous because we haven't had an argument yet. We haven't really fought yet. And granted, I don't think that's a bad thing, but I guess he's like, I don't know how that's gonna work when things do come up. Like, are we gonna just like not be able to know how to work through it, and then we're like done? However, they also did say that Brennan is a runner, because in the previews it looks like Alexa leaves by herself. So I will be really shocked if he says no, but it looks like he's going to say no and she's going to say yes. And I don't know. I think that it's because maybe there's too much pressure. Maybe he's just like unsure of himself. Again, if he's a runner, that makes sense. But, and I think he's open to like Judaism and like knowing culture and stuff like that. But like, that's a lot to like hold to when like they were like, the paperwork states that if you like, you know, decide to divorce her, like you got to take care of her still. Like, and granted, there's ways around that. But you add like the prenup to it. I don't know. It could be just a lot for him to like, in his mind, do. So I don't know. I don't really know. But I would never think that he would say no, to be honest. So if he does say no, I think Alexa would have went in there saying yes and not no. That's just my opinion. Okay, let's go to, who else is there? Oh, Colleen and Matt. So, Matthew has not worked through what happened to him in the past. And I think Colleen was so down with like, she was so caught up in like not being chosen by Cole or Brendan that she just was like, I have to find someone. And then she found Matt. And I don't know, like, yes, they like care for each other, but Matt is just not, he's not ready to be in a relationship, at least not a marriage, maybe a relationship that he can like work through. But like getting married is like a lot, like, and he will fly off the handle because he has twice. And so the first time we all saw like was the situation with Cole and Colleen that happened. And then it got brought back up because Zenab was asking questions of Matt. And then after that happened, Matt goes up to Colleen and he's like, you know, I'm just being honest. I still am not over the whole thing with Cole. And I'm just like, and Colleen was the same. Colleen's like, we talked through this though. Like, why are we going back? Like, we already worked through this. Like, what's the point? And so I think that then that same night though, shit hit the fan again. We see Nancy like texting Colleen, I think, and then Bartise is going in Matt's room. We're gonna talk about Bartise because I did not like that, but he goes in the room and he's like, "Wouldn't you be mad if da 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 da?" And blah, blah, blah. Like he's going ham. He's going off about Colleen is not at home. It's 2:30 in the morning. She's out at the club. He don't know. She's not answering her phone. It's a thing. So Bartise is not doing any help. He's not being helpful because all he's doing is comparing his situation to theirs. And so like, you should be glad about your situation. Look at mine. And I'm like, nigga, that's not helpful. So Matt is like, then he's asking the producer, like, wouldn't you be mad if it was you, bro? And I'm like, this girl's going out. She's just having fun. And again, because, so one, the thing that happened with Cole. Two, he still has insecurities about what happened with his ex. So, of course, this is showing up. And it's easier to leave than to stay because shit has happened where he's like, if I don't leave and I put my all into this and I get hurt again, I'm going to be hurt again. I mean, and really that's all it comes down to is just you're just going to be hurt again and have to work through it. But love is a risk. I like that Colleen was like saying like when they had a little dinner or whatever, like he asked if love is enough and she said no. And then the answer would be no at this moment to them getting married because it would be no for me too. So I think that she should say no. I think he should say no too. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I'm gonna just guess and say that Matt is gonna say no, Colleen's gonna say yes. That's what I said. But yes, I think that Matt needs to just go ahead and work through the anger and the pain and the sorrow he feels about his 10-year relationship. I get it. It makes sense. But you got to work through it. But also, like, his friends made it clear too. Like, he's been dating people, but he's never like fully like committed to someone, again, because of that fear. Like, he will go on 1 or 2 dates with someone and then no longer talk to them because he's scared. Makes sense. So he's in like fight or flight. So either he's fighting or he gotta go. Fight or flight. All right, next is Nancy and Bartise. We're gonna save Raven and SK for the last because they made a decision and I just was So Nancy and Bartise. I guess what I was catching that he wasn't saying was that he wasn't physically attracted to Nancy. And that's why he was like, maybe he was forcing it when they first met. And I didn't really like, I was like, something doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel real. That's what it was. And now he's saying it. And then I think it has Nancy confused because she's like, well, you were all over me. But like, he actually wasn't physically attracted to her from jump. So you add the abortion thing to it and the conversation. And it sounds like they have very different values around that, which is like understandable in the sense that like he's like freaking out, like, what does this mean? Because what if I want the baby and she doesn't, but also she gets to make the choice? And that can be really scary if there are like, birth defects and things like that. And so it was an interesting conversation to have. I don't know. I think the reason why she asked the question though is because she wants to know, like, if it was on her to make that choice, what would he do? So sometimes those are important questions to have, in that sense. I think that Bartise, like, saying that she was too needy when she asked for a hug. And granted, some people do actually feel that way when you are like, if physical, maybe Nancy's love language is physical touch. So she likes being touched. She likes being held. She likes being hugged in certain ways. Like, that's just how she is and who she is. And then it's like, why are you so needy? Like, that's like fucked up. And you add the addition of like the conversation, then he brought the conversation up to his parents, and I'm like, dude, that was not appropriate. Like, that was dumb. And then your sister having reservations, your parents having reservations now because you had this conversation. And I'm just like, you're stupid. Like, that was dumb. I don't know why he did that. I would be really upset if somebody did that to me, because of course they're going to side with like their brother. And if they have the same values, like, more than likely, then that's what's going to happen. But when he said what he said to Matt, I was like, why are you even saying this? Like, Nancy already knows that you don't physically like her. Like, but also this is why you came on the show. And I'm like, if you wanted to find someone that matched your like whole finesse, then you should have not came on Love is Blind. This is the point of the whole show. It's literally the point. So I think the frustration for me is that like Bartise, I mean, clearly there is an emotional connection. I just wish that Nancy like wasn't so caught up in him and like decided to not deal with him. Because she's a boss. Let me tell you something. This girl got 5 properties. 5. He was sitting in one of them that she was doing. Like, and I get the whole ex thing, like, he wasn't expecting that. But sometimes your ex is a better business partner than they are a actual boyfriend or fiance or husband. Like, The Rock and his ex-wife are like business partners. There's somebody else. Oh, they do flipping on HGTV. Christina, I forget his name. Tarek. yeah, they still are business partners because they make really good money, and they can clearly, they were in business with each other before then, and it works. So why just try to stop it? I don't know. So I think maybe that's where Nancy's at, is like, well, yeah, we have this mortgage together, and it's easier for us to like keep it and shit, instead of like trying to dismantle it and create some other bullshit that we don't have to. So I think that's why, personally, I think Nancy's really sweet. I think she's kind. I think she's loving. I think she's caring. I think she's all of those things. And I am not sure, like, even, but her brothers, oh, her brothers were hilarious. They were like, I think her oldest brother was just like, like, we all know that about Nancy. Like, she is that person. Like, you ain't saying nothing we don't know. That's funny to me. But that just described, like, she makes everything better. That's what they said. And she will make everything better. And if he don't want her, somebody else will. And then when Andrew showed up at the little shenanigan thing, and he saw them talking, and she was crying and stuff, and I was like, I already said she should have picked Andrew, to be honest. Like, that's what I said from jump. But whatever, do what you do. So I think Nancy will say yes. I think Bartise will say no. Again, I could be completely and totally wrong, but that's what I think. Last but not least, Raven and SK. I was not expecting him to honestly say, I do not. Because everything leading up to that was very much like, yeah, I want you to be the woman that you are. I want you to, we're creating our own relationship, like all these things. And then that's not what had happened. And I understand, like, the side SK was saying, like, basically, like, your family's not here. Like, it was very non-traditional. But if you're going to marry someone that is American, like, it's just different for an American. Even if they're Black, it's just different because we were raised different. And cultures are just different. But also her not moving to California was an issue. But I don't know, like, again, I don't know how much they showed on camera about their relationship and those conversations. They did talk about it once, like, Raven's like, well, I don't want to move because my life is here, like, and I just don't want to do that. So I was honestly really surprised. But she's not a girl that's like traditional in the sense, like, when they were telling her, like, you got to make sure you have stew and food always in the house, and Raven's just like, nigga, I'm not doing that shit. Like, and not to say she wouldn't care for SK. I don't think that's like who she is. I know there are women like that, but Raven was like, even in comparison to the ladies that were on the show, like, that wanted to be stay-at-home moms, that, like, their ambitions look different than hers. Like, she's like, I don't want that. And I think that's okay for her not to want that. I don't know if SK was honest that she didn't want that. But I was sad for Raven because her friends didn't even come back to say nothing to her. But I was glad that, like, SK's mom did come in there and say, hey, like, I'm sorry. I don't know what SK was, that's his decision, but I'm glad that she came back there. And really, honestly, Raven did do, I feel like she's like, I'm sure Nigerian culture is a lot to learn, and you just don't know what you don't know. And, like, this is like a 6-week process. So I can only imagine for her, it's like, I'm just trying. And they were only together like a month before they actually get married, maybe 21 days before they actually say I do or I don't. So I just think that it's really interesting to, like, work through for Raven. But I just think there were issues. I don't think there's any red flags. I think there's just issues that maybe SK didn't necessarily say that he felt. But I was actually surprised that he said, I do not. And it's not based on like looks either, because there's pretty girls everywhere. I really genuinely just didn't think he was going to say no. So there's that. The next person we're going to see is Bartise and Nancy, and apparently we're going to see the reunion, and I'm really excited to see the reunion because it looks like, honestly, I don't think none of them are together. I don't know who says yes and no, but it don't look like nobody's together. So, yeah. So with that being said, thank you for watching, and I will be back next week with the last review of Love is Blind Season 3.